Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga, our last yoga class, our last class of the year of 2021. So what I have for you today is we are going to focus on an area of the lower back and the spine called the QL, the quadratus lumborum. If you think about a muscle shaped kind of like a diamond, it's here in this lower mid-back region, comes down toward the sacrum on the bottom part of that diamond shape, comes over to the side, attaches kind of at the back of your hips, and then up along the lumbar and those last few thoracic vertebrae. And that muscle is responsible for taking our body into lateral flexion, side to side. It also is responsible for some rotation of the spine and then some extension of the spine backward. And this is an area where we can have trouble, some difficulty. Sometimes you'll feel pain on one side of that muscle, maybe the other. And it's hard to diagnose whether that's the QL or if it's your SI joint, something in there. But it's really important that we both strengthen this muscle as well as provide some range of motion and flexibility. So that's our main focus today. At the end of class, I'm going to give you an opportunity for a restorative pose. And what I have over here is a couple of nice cushy bed pillows. Some of you actually might have a yoga bolster at home. So if you have a bolster, have that close at the end of class, maybe a couple of cushy pillows, and we'll finish our class with a nice restorative twist at the end. So I'm going to have you come down onto your mat in a Z-sit position to begin. So what is a Z-sit? In Pilates, this is known as mermaid. And we have the right leg bent to the front. The shin is level with the front edge of your mat. And then we have the left leg bent off to the side, and that shin is parallel to the side edge of your mat. Now you'll notice my hips are not that flexible. So when I'm sitting in this position, I'm kind of cocked and it's difficult for me to sit here. So a nice option, if you're feeling the same thing, is to take a little bit of a blanket or maybe a beach towel and fold it up a couple times. And what you want to do is put it under the hip that's lowest. So I'm going to tuck it under my right hip, and voila! I'm not totally straight, but this is so much better. I feel more comfortable in this position. If this bothers your knee, you can certainly take this leg and open it out and extend it to the side. So let's just come into our Z-sit and bring the fingertips of your right hand out to your mat. Take your left arm up, and I want you to find a diagonal line. So we have a nice straight line from the right fingertips through the shoulder, through the left fingertips. And start to rotate back and look up toward the ceiling and see what your range of motion here is in this rotation. Take a nice inhale. And then as you exhale, it's a modified thread the needle. You're going to take that top hand and reach underneath your right armpit and look behind you. And then we'll do this with the breath 4 more times. Inhale to open, expand, and exhale and rotate. And as you do that rotation, I want you to scoop in your abdominals and kind of hollow out your midsection. So right here, scoop and round and reach through. And we have 2 more. And this should feel really lovely. I don't want you to crank it really hard and feel any pain. Just a nice gentle range of motion here. And then last one, nice breath in. And exhale, reach under. And then finish with a reach up. Inhale. And as you exhale, shift to the other side and hold this reverse stretch. Now this one is difficult to get into this position, so it's not going to feel like you're going to go very far, but I want you to go back and forth between these 2 positions. So as you go to the side, this time let your arm really reach. And you can bend that right elbow a little bit, stretch, and then come up and go the other direction. So this is similar to gate pose, which we're going to do later onto our knees. And reach, We've got 2 more this direction. I want you to feel that QL really lengthen there. Also your lat muscles, you'll feel that stretching right underneath the armpit. And 1 more each direction. And then just relax the right hand down to your side. We're going to fold forward over this front leg. This is a modified pigeon pose. So bring your fingertips down and start to walk your body down. And if you're pretty tight here, you might support yourself up onto a pillow or a block. Maybe you can get your elbows all the way down. If you feel pretty flexible, you can make a pillow for your forehead with your hands stacked and lower your forehead right down toward the floor. And we're feeling the stretch in that right glute, in that hip there. And we'll take 3 breaths. And as you exhale that 3rd breath, press yourself back up. And then shift this to the opposite direction. So bring your hands behind you and start to walk them back any amount. And then hold a stretch here for this left thigh, the quadratus, a little bit into the hip flexor. And open up your heart, pull your shoulder blades back, and really extend. And as you breathe, let your chest rise up to the ceiling. Inhale. And exhale, just 2 more breaths. It's up to you how far back you take this. If you're pretty flexible, you might be able to come back further onto your elbows. 1 more breath, inhale. And exhale, bring yourself back up to neutral. All right, let's take a moment to situate our body facing the other direction, or our legs, into that Z-sit the opposite way. And I'm going to need that little cushion under my left hip this time. So now I have the left leg bent to the front and the right leg bent to the side. This still is a pretty tight position for me. I really actually need a little bit more lift, but I'm going to see how I do here. Let's bring the left fingertips down to the mat, create a diagonal line, and then rotate that top shoulder back, inhale. And exhale, scoop your abdominals as you rotate and reach underneath the armpit. I want you to go nice and slow with this so that you don't press yourself beyond what your body says is okay for you to go in this rotation, so that you can be mindful of any really tight areas or pain. And 2 more. Maybe noticing differences between your right side and your left, which is pretty normal with rotation. And 1 more time. And when I twist, I really feel that QL, that diamond-shaped muscle in the lower back region, releasing. Then we'll inhale, uphold. And then as you exhale, pull yourself up and stretch the opposite direction. And we'll just go back and forth between these 2. And as you bring that left hand down to the floor, you can bend your elbow a little bit and really bring this right arm over. And pull up. So when we do this side bending, we have a stretch in the QL on this top side. And then as you pull yourself up, you're strengthening that muscle as you're moving in the opposite direction. So poses that move side to side are excellent for both stretching and strengthening the QL. Let's do 1 more each direction. And then just lower that left hand back down to your side on the floor. We're going to walk the body forward into a modified pigeon. So bringing your fingertips down. If you're pretty tight, you might be just right up here or hands on a block. And then just test the waters and see how far you can come forward. And if you can bring your forehead down to stacked hands or to a block, it's really nice to be able to rest your head so that you're not tensing the muscles of the back of the neck. And then let's take 3 deep breaths here, right into the back side of your rib cage. Expanding through the intercostal muscles, those little muscles that reside between each rib. One more deep breath, noticing that nice stretch in the left hip. As you exhale, begin to press yourself up. And then we'll move back in the opposite direction. Fingertips come behind you, and we're opening up the chest here. And then use your arms to guide yourself back until you feel the appropriate stretch right here for the quad. There's a couple of you I know that can lay all the way down onto your back. That will never happen in my lifetime. But I can go there in my thoughts, laying all the way back into a nice stretch. Let's take one more breath here. Expand through the chest as you inhale. Exhaling completely. And then slowly we'll rise up. Let's move into an all fours position, hands and knees. If you need some padding for your knees, we'll be here for a little bit, so it's nice to have something gentle to cushion your knees. So to strengthen the QL and the spinal extensors, a wonderful exercise is spinal balance. So if we start with our right leg extended straight back, level off your hips, and then lift your left arm forward, and your thumb is up like you're going to shake someone's hand. Now really scoop your belly. Make sure you're not sagging in your back here. And tighten the thigh muscle on that right leg. So you're really activating the muscle nice and strong, flexing the foot, press into the heel. Hold 2 more breaths. And 1 more. And then that left hand comes down, the right knee finds the mat. Extend your left leg straight back. And your toes should be pointing down. So make sure you don't turn your toes out, because that's going to cause your hip to lift. And then reach the right arm forward with your thumb up in that handshake position. Scoop your belly up so you're slightly drawing the navel toward the spine. And breathe. And this exercise can be done moving, alternating sides. A lot of variations with this, but today we're just holding statically to strengthen the back muscles. And 1 more breath in. And then as you exhale, that right hand comes down, the left knee comes down. And then extend your right leg again straight back, but we're just going to keep both hands on the mat. And for just a moment, look underneath and look at your toes back behind you on that right leg and make sure they're pointing down, not turned out. And then once you see that that's nice, you've got that nice position, we'll bring the head back up to neutral and take your right leg out to the right and look for that foot. So you're going to look over your right shoulder, make sure your toes are still pointing down. And then bring your foot over to the left side. Look to the left, see if you can see your foot. Toes should still be pointing down. Now you might not see your foot in this direction. And then we'll go back and forth, inhaling as you look to the right. And exhaling as you look to your left. And we'll do 3 more. Now your waist is bending from side to side as you're moving the leg, so it's not just the leg going. You're shortening the side of your waist as you look to the right, shortening the right side, and as you look to the left, shortening the left side. Your head is rotating side to side, so it's some nice action for your neck. And then bring that leg right back to neutral. Pick your left hand off the floor and hold your spinal balance 3 breaths. Tighten that right thigh, squeeze the glute muscle. 1 more breath. Left hand comes down, right knee comes down. You might need a little break for your wrists, so let's just come back into child's pose for a moment. And you can circle your wrists around a little bit, 2 or 3 each direction. And if your wrists are really tender when you're doing this sequence, you can come up onto your knuckles and make fists for wrists. All right, let's come back up to all fours. Extend your left leg straight back. For just a second, look underneath, see your toes, make sure they're pointing down and your hips are level. Then bring your head back to neutral. Open that left leg to the left side. Look for your toes. They're pointing down. And then swing it across to the right side of your body. You're looking for your toes, pointing down. This time with the breath, inhale to the left side. Exhale to the right side. And you're looking as far as you can over the shoulder each time, moving that neck through rotation. And make sure your back isn't sagging, so scoop up with your abdominal muscles. It can be subtle, but sometimes we forget to keep those connected, and then the back starts to sag and the belly drops. This is our last one on this side. And then bring that leg directly back behind. Pick up the right arm to hold your spinal balance 3 breaths. Check your head position. Make sure it's neutral. Tighten your left thigh and squeeze your left glute muscle. Last breath here. And then the right hand comes down. The left knee comes down. Let's take a cat stretch. So scoop the abdominals, round the back up to the ceiling, tucking your tailbone under, and we'll hold this pose 3 breaths. And again, sometimes we move through this pose in through cat and cow, but today we're holding static, finding the abdominals, really scooping up and focusing on stretching through the lumbar spine. 1 more breath. And then bring that spine back to neutral. Take your right foot, extend it back behind you, and make sure it's touching the mat. And we're going to turn the foot out so I have the sole of my foot down on the floor. Kick your left ankle out to the left side of your mat and open out into a kneeling side plank. And then take this top hand here and really reach above your head. And make a big stretch here all along the side body. And then we're going to use the strength of the QL muscle to pull the body up and stretch the opposite direction. So we did this in our Z-sit, our mermaid. Let's go back and forth between those 2 stretches, really reaching above the head, arm toward the ear, and then the other direction. 3 more. And you can place the breath wherever you want to here. I kind of like the inhale as I'm down in this lower position, and then the exhale to bring me up so that I can breathe in while my body is stretching the QL, and then I can breathe out as I'm strengthening against that resistance. Let's take one more on this side. And then as you reach that left hand back down to the mat, just cartwheel your hands back down to the floor and come back to your neutral position. This time we'll take the left foot straight back, turn your foot out a little bit, kick your right ankle to the side of your mat so I have my lower leg on an angle, and open out into side plank, and let this top arm really reach. So I'm almost curving my waist so I can really stretch here. And then when you're ready, use the strength of that QL to pull yourself up to stretch the opposite direction. This one for me feels so much different on this side. When I side bend over to that opposite direction, it seems really tight. So take your time. We're inhaling as we stretch the QL on that top side. And exhale to strengthen. Make sure you're not pushing to the point of pain. This should be gentle and up. We've got one more each direction. And then we'll cartwheel the hands down to the floor, coming back to all fours. Then two choices, either take a child's pose here or tuck your toes underneath, lift your hips, and drop those heels into a nice down dog. If you're in child's pose, still press those palms into the mat like you would in down dog and make your shoulders active. Peel your shoulder blades apart from one another so you're expanding through the back body. In down dog, really pressing off of your hands so we're not over the top of your wrists, but we're way back behind. Let's take one more breath. And then either walk feet to hands or hands to feet. Come into a forward bend. Taking any option here with your forward bend, you can clasp your opposite wrists and hang in ragdoll. Or you can reach behind your legs and draw yourself toward your thighs a little bit. Or hands can be up on a block or on a chair. And we'll just take 3 breaths. If you're feeling pretty tight in those hamstrings, let your knees bend. Or we can straighten them out to elongate the muscle a little bit more. One more breath here in our forward bend. And then we'll roll the spine up really slowly. Scoop your abs in and think about all of your vertebrae stacking one on top of the other from the base of your spine. The head comes up very last. And as we rise, circle the arms back behind you and reach up. We'll press the palms together, draw the thumbs into the heart. And then step out to the long edge of your mat into a nice wide stance as we prepare for Warrior 2. So let's turn the right foot to point toward your mat, that edge of your mat, and your left foot's going to kick the heel out so it will be parallel to that back side of your mat. And then use the strength of this right glute to pull your knee to align with the center of your foot. So sometimes it wants to collapse inward if we lose this connection with the glute. So pull it back. Squeeze this gluteal, your left one. If this one's relaxed, then the hip flexor is not stretching here. So tighten this left glute. This releases your hip flexor. And then reach those arms out. Extend. And then one more time, just as we did in Z-sit and gate pose, we'll side stretch from side to side. So we'll start in a side bend here, stretching, bring that arm next to the ear, and then pull yourself up as you come into reverse warrior. The gaze can come up. And then breathing, I'd like to take 2 breaths for each pose. So as you stretch, you'll inhale. As you come up, you'll exhale. As you stretch, inhale. As you come up, exhale. 3 more with your own breath. Now try not to lose focus on what's going on with the lower body. So we still have that right knee pulled out toward the pinky toe side of your foot. And we're still squeezing the left gluteal muscle to release the left hip flexor. You're stretching and lengthening through the QL, as well as strengthening that nice, big, strong muscle that's very important to the health of our lumbar spine. And I think we've got one more to give us 5. And then come right back to your neutral position. And then I'd like you to take your right hand and bring your arm across your body and then pull it towards you with your left. So this is going to give you a shoulder stretch. Then you'll look over your right shoulder. Now you can also do this in eagle arms. So if you'd like to try that, you can just wrap that left arm underneath the right to find your eagle position. Pull your elbows to the right side or left side of your body, yes, as you look to the right. And as we hold this nice release for the right shoulder and upper back, I'd like you to keep the mind on your breathing, on engaging through the core and stabilizing your lower body. One more breath. Inhale. And exhale. Bring the head and the arms back to the center. Open back out to your warrior 2. And then we'll switch the sides of our warrior 2. So straighten your right leg, pivot your foot in, turn your left foot out, and find your stance. So sometimes it takes a little bit of kind of moving around to get us in the right position. This is called an open hip pose. So this hip is open, but if you're tight in your hips, it's not ideal to have your torso facing forward, which you'll hear that from yoga teachers a lot, that you need to have your knee this way and your spine this way. But if we're not loose enough in that hip flexor, then we have to adjust our spine to be a little bit on an angle. So find that place that feels good for you. Tighten this right glute to release the hip flexor. And then let's go with a nice inhale into side angle pose. Reach. Exhale to pull yourself back up. Inhale to reverse warrior. Exhale, neutral. And let your breathing guide the speed of your movement. So however long it takes you to inhale a nice full breath, stay in that pose. And then use your exhalation to pull up. Feel a stretch in the right QL, and then strengthening it to lift up. Bring your mind back to that lower body position. Make sure your knee hasn't started drifting in. Keep it pulled back by activating the glute. And we have one more on this side. back to our warrior two. This time, the left arm comes across our body, and then we can use that right hand just to pull it in. A nice shoulder stretch and look to the left. And then your option is going to be to wrap that arm underneath to eagle. And try not to hunch those shoulders up toward your ears. Really press them down. Find the abdominals as you breathe. And one more inhale. And exhale. Bring the head back to neutral. Unwrap those arms back to your warrior two. And then we will use this side of the mat to be your top side. So bring your hands down, pivot your body, and step your back foot forward into forward bend. We'll inhale to half lift position. So the fingertips float up the shins. And sometimes we have the tendency to want to lift our head up when we're doing half lift. So tuck your chin a little bit, lengthen the back of your neck, make sure you're neutral. Then fold back down into forward bend. Do a reverse swan dive to come all the way up to upward salute stretch. Press the palms together and sit into chair with thumbs into heart. So if we're not firing the back muscles, sometimes chair looks like this, and we're just collapsed forward. So I want you to fire those muscles of the back and sink into your heels. Keep your palms pressed together as you stand back up and reach, maybe a baby back bend. And then this time as you sit into chair, twist to your right. So you're bringing your left elbow toward the right knee. And you're strengthening that QL in this rotation. Then we'll inhale to reach back up. Exhale to twist left in your chair. And then we'll do 3 more to each direction. So we'll reach up and twist right. And reach up. And twist left. 2 more each direction. And make sure your knees are staying even as you twist. So when we twist right, sometimes the left knee wants to move forward. So keep it even. And that way we know that we're not twisting from our knees or our hips. We're actually twisting from the spine. 1 more each side. And reach up to finish our last repetition. And swan dive into forward bend. Inhale, halfway lift, fingertips float up the shins. Exhale, fold. And then we'll step back to a plank position. So from your plank, there's a lot of options here. We can allow our knees to drop to the mat. We can bring our elbows down to the mat if the wrists are feeling tender today. And we'll just hold the plank 3 breaths. Our goal is to keep the abdominals pulled in so the lower back isn't collapsing or sagging. The head to be neutral. And 1 more breath. Inhale. And exhale. And then we'll lower all the way down to the belly. So if you're up on your toes, your knees can come down. And we'll come into a Chaturanga by keeping the elbows close to the midline as we lower the chest down to the mat. So earlier in class, we did spinal balance on our hands and knees. And we're going to do that equivalent of that on our belly. So I'd like you to reach your hands out forward into Superman. Your right leg lifts up off the mat by squeezing the right glute. And then your left arm reaches up with your thumb up like you're in that handshake hold. Then activate your back muscles a little bit by lifting the chest a little further up away from the mat. And let's hold. Now it can be difficult to breathe in this pose, so your breath might be a little more shallow. In and out through the nose, or in through the nose and out through the mouth. One more breath. And lower the hand, lower the leg. If you need a break, just fold your hands and rest your forehead right onto the top of your hands and just relax for a moment. And then when you're ready for the other side, hands reach out long like Superman. Your left leg comes up by squeezing your glute. Try not to bend your knee. This comes from your hip. Then your right hand lifts, thumb is up, and the chest rises. And let's hold 3 breaths. And then lower the hand, lower the leg, pause and take a breath. Now we're going to move into alternating sides. If you prefer to just lift the leg alternating, you can do that, or the opposite arm and leg in our contralateral raise. So reaching out, as the right leg lifts, the left arm lifts, the chest rises. Inhale. Exhale, lower, and switch. Left leg, right arm. Inhale, and exhale. 3 more each side. Try not to look forward too much with your face, keeping the back of the neck long. So your eye gaze should be down toward your mat. 2 more each side. Strengthening the SI joint here and the QL. Keep breathing, going at your own pace. Let's get 1 more each side. And then lift both legs up, both arms up. This is a modified locust, or we can bring the hands back behind us. Lift the chest, lift those legs, 3 breaths. Really feeling that back body strengthening. Then slide your palms right underneath your shoulders. Press yourself up and back to child's pose. Ooh. You can also take a nice cat stretch here, but it's a wonderful counter pose to that back work. Last breath in. And release. Okay, we're going to take a moment to come into a setup for our restorative pose. So, if you have a block, it's a nice tool to use. If you don't, we can put both of our pillows together to find the setup. So I'm going to bring my block here and then take one of my pillows and put it on an angle. So if you don't have a block, then at that top edge of your mat, you can actually put another pillow under there, so you've got a little bit of an incline on your pillow. All right, so let's come into a restored twist. And I'm going to bring my timer here so that we have an equal amount of time on each side. If you're watching class later on YouTube, you get to pause and stay here as long as you like, because it's a really nice, yummy restorative pose. So what we're going to do is, as you sit, place one of your hips right up against the lower piece of your pillow, the lower edge. And then you can come into your Z sit like we did earlier. Now you don't have to have anything under your hip because we're not going to be upright, we're going to be sideline. If this position doesn't feel comfortable, you can kind of stack your knees, stagger them a little bit, and I have my top ankle resting on the instep of my bottom foot. And then really lengthen your spine up here long and turn your abdominals toward your pillow. And then use your fingertips on the floor to help you rotate, and then lower your body down onto the pillow. So you can do a couple of different things with your head. You can keep your head the same direction as your knees are, and that's a little bit less of a stretch for your neck. Or you can turn your head the opposite direction from your knees, which is more of a twist, more of a stretch, and hold it in that position. So right from this moment, we are here 3 minutes. And this should feel relaxing. It shouldn't feel stressful in your spine. If you start with your head turned the opposite direction and your neck starts to bother you, then simply adjust, but move as little as you possibly can to come up and switch, because I want you to stay in a really relaxed state here. Once you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And this is a wonderful, gentle stretch for that QL. Just really clear your mind and relax your breathing. So we are going to work on a breath pattern. 3 counts to inhale, 2 counts to hold, and 5 counts to exhale. So it's a 10-count breath. So let's just start by exhaling completely before we begin. Then begin to inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath. 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just continue that breath flow at your own pace. We have 1 minute remaining on this side. And when you inhale, really expand your rib cage. Then as you hold, as you hold the breath, just make it a gentle hold. You shouldn't feel stressed when you're holding the breath there. And then that 5-count exhalation completes the breath pattern. You have time for 1 more. And once you finish that, Take your time to press yourself up a little bit with your hands and just bring your head to neutral. And I want you to hold it at neutral for just a couple of seconds. And then walk your hands up. So to switch sides, all you're going to do is rotate your body and turn to the other direction. Make sure the opposite hip is very close to that bottom edge of your pillow. Either taking your legs into your Z-sit or staggering your knees and placing that top ankle into the insole of the bottom leg. And before you lay down, I want you to lift upward with your spine. Bring your hands to the sides of your pillow, and you're using your fingertips to help assist your body to twist. And then laying your abdominals down toward the pillow, you can decide whether to turn your head to the right or left. And then just sink your body into your props. And we have 3 minutes in this position. And it's okay to fidget around a little bit just to make sure you're comfortable. And then once you are, come back to that 10 count breath pattern. So we exhale completely to start. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. At your own pace with the breath pattern. And it should feel like a really flowing breath. Very comfortable and relaxing. A mindful breath. And if you'd like, at any time, you can adjust the position of your head, turning it the opposite way. But you'll really notice the difference between turning your face away from your knees versus toward. So maybe you could just do one breath pattern and then bringing your head back the other direction. And we're about halfway through our 3 minutes, a little bit more than that. And just about 1 minute remaining here on this side. And notice how the breath helps you to find a stretch. So when you inhale, allow your rib cage to fill like a big balloon. And when you hold the breath, keep the ribs expanding. And when you exhale, just allow it to be slow and a little bit at a time, releasing from your nose or your mouth. And we have time for one more breath. And when you finish that 5 count exhalation, use your hands to gently press yourself partway up and just turn your head to face neutral. So we try to find our equilibrium with that cervical spine. Then walk your hands in and turn so that your back is facing your props. And then we're going to come into a Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined bound angle pose. So the soles of the feet are together, the knees open. And then we're going to very slowly lay ourselves back on this inclined pillow. Now, once you come back in this position, if your legs feel uncomfortable, you can tuck a couple of pillows under the outside of your thighs to give them some support. You can make a little bit of a pillow for the back of the head if you feel like your neck is really craned back. If this isn't comfortable, remove your props and just come flat on your back into your Baddha Konasana. Then find a comfortable position with your arms. They can go out, way out to the side to expand the chest. And the benefit of being up on the pillows allows your chest to expand. So if you're on your back, then your arms are just on the floor next to you. But if you're up on the pillows, then you can allow your arms to sink a little bit lower than your chest, which is a wonderful stretch. And then for our final time, we'll come into our 10 count breath pattern. Exhaling completely to begin. Then inhaling 3, 2, 1, holding 2, 1, exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Continuing at your own pace. Eyes are closed, everything is completely relaxed. The inner thighs are softened, the hips relaxed. The muscles of the chest and the fronts of the shoulders releasing to help us with good posture. If at any time your inner thighs are becoming uncomfortable, you can allow your knees to close. And then you can walk your feet a little bit wider than your knees and just let them drop in toward each other. It's still a nice, comfortable position without stressing the inner thighs and hip flexors. And if you feel like you'd like to stay here for a while longer, there's no rush to rise. And if you're following my direction, let's take one more 10 count breath. And then I'd like you to think about the best way for you to come up out of this pose comfortably. So you may just roll over onto one side off of your pillow. You might elongate the legs to straight. And maybe doing a little bit of a sit-up to pull yourself up and forward. Once you rise up, We'll extend the legs long and come into a gentle forward fold. If you have a yoga strap, this is a great opportunity to place it under the bottoms of your feet and to pull yourself forward. Or you can reach your fingertips behind your body and press yourself down. Or just lower your hands to the sides of your legs. And let's take five breaths, not a 5 count breath, but 5 breaths at your own pace. In and out, and I'd like you to focus on that QL, that diamond-shaped muscle in the lower back. Releasing as you breathe. Two more slow breaths. And then take your time to rise up and to find a comfortable seat in simple cross-leg pose. And we'll take one more side bend each direction just to notice the QL and the range of motion you might feel in that area. So we'll inhale the left arm up and side bend over to the right and keep your left sitting bone pressed into the floor. And then just a small amount, start to twist and reach out to the diagonal. And then come back to neutral, pulling yourself up. And then inhale that right arm up. Exhale into your side bend. Keep that right sits bone pushed down into the mat and rotate just a little bit, reaching to the diagonal. One of my favorite stretches. And come back to neutral and rising up. And we'll take one breath together to sweep the arms out and up, pressing the palms, draw the thumbs into the heart in our Anjali Mudra, which is a sign or symbol of honor and respect and gratitude. And I am so honored for the opportunity it's been nearly 2 years since we were in lockdown that first time. The 13th of March, I remember, it was the day after my birthday, 2020. And shortly after, in April, we started these classes together. And it's been such an honor to teach you and to lead you and to guide you through this uncertain time in this pandemic. So with Omicron now raging, I really encourage you to stay along with me in these classes if you're not feeling comfortable going in the gym, and to tell your friends to join in and become a part of the LisaBug community. That light and love and joy that resides within me, that's in my heart as a teacher, honors the light and love in each one of you as my friends. Happy New Year and namaste. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll be sending out an email. We'll resume our regular schedule next week with 3 classes a week. So be watching out for what's on tap for the month of January. If you can stay for a minute for a check-in, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, I'll see you next time and next year. I'll see you next year. Thanks so much, everyone.